Music Town, Detroit, recording live. Prepare yourself for a hoppy drive. If you're chilling at home, pop that growler and just kick back for the next 2 hours. It's the end of the week, so here's to the weekend. It's Better on Draft with Rob, Matt, Nick, and Ken.
And we are live, episode 222, Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. We hopefully will have a guest here shortly. I need to make sure to message him so he knows we are live, but we are live. So while I message him, Nicholas, how are you and what are you drinking?
I'm finally back home in a furnished office, if I can start off by saying, so happy.
Couldn't tell by the echo.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
It's a work in progress, but we gotta hang some more stuff on the walls and decorate, but it's coming together. I'm starting tonight with a Three Floyds Alpha King, which I've already poured into my Better on Draft pint glass. And then I got, like Dan always says in Nick fashion, Old Nation Special Hot Project Sultana, their New England IPA.
Good stuff.
All right. And
good to be back home.
I'm sure.
Robert, what's going on? What are you drinking up there?
Still going on strong. You know, got still looking forward to actually getting back into the bar scene starting in 2 weeks, as looks like I will be slightly hanging up my virtual trivia mouse and getting back to the realness in the bars in a couple weeks. But everything is still going strong in the house, still working, still got 4 kids that occasionally drive me insane, and that's why I drink beer. I currently I have the first that I'm hitting right now, which is the drafting table orange Bruleus, which is sitting here with straight from the Brooklyn Zoo, old dirty bastard. So
nice.
We're sipping with that glass. And as I'm getting ready to crack this open, I still had this one that was sitting courtesy of Tavour, Modern Times Orderville, which is their double dry hopped beer. So I'm going to be cracking that one in just a bit.
You know, I'm gonna first of all let me turn on there. We do have a code for Tavour. It's called Robert. You can actually get $10 off?
$10 credit after you spend the first $25 on beer.
There you go. So you just use that promo code Tavour. Oh, hello.
Whoa, hey now.
I have a little issue with Tavour right now because the first option you can choose on Tavour is a IPA. And the next option you could choose is an IPA. And the next one you could choose is a pale ale. And the next one you could choose is an imperial IPA. And then there is a sour. And then there's another IPA. Yeah, I'm gonna get enough beer, but I don't know if I can just even push it to a second month worth of stuff.
I know you and your IPAs and not liking it. I mean, I was pretty excited that WeldWorks' Juicy Bits hopped back up there earlier yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to get it because that sucker already sold out. And I've not been a big fan of Yeti from Great Divide, and now there's a S'mores Yeti that's up there. And I'm like,
Yeti is good.
Is it?
Especially if you can get it on nitro. I know you're talking about getting it out of a can, but
yeah,
you can get it on nitro. It's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah.
I did get the Listermans this time. I was pretty happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a couple that are purchased and are on the way. Well, I haven't. Well, they will be on the way in a couple weeks. So looking forward to that. But as we said, anybody interested in getting that deal, that is for first-time users for that code, and it is just a simple flat. What is it? $14.90 for shipping, no matter how much beer you buy.
Yep, I'm quite interested there the way they do it because they also, and Dan, we'll go to you in a second, but they charge every time you buy a beer, they charge your card, so they're doing a card not present charge. So obviously they're getting pretty high credit card rates, yeah, especially for each swipe. But what are you drinking over there?
I'm pulling a Nick today, so I picked up a crowler of Dragon's Milk in my Better On draft
I
glass.
was gonna say it's a mighty looking glass.
Well, yeah, should look familiar there. And then I picked up from Parish Brewing a Rev Coffee Stout, probably one of the best coffee stouts I've ever tasted.
That is a good stout.
Yeah, this one is absolutely amazing. I had it on draft for the first time yesterday. I had to go back and get more. It was so good.
That was actually one of my first Tavor beers that I got.
Was it? Yeah, everyone loves that one. It sells out here like crazy whenever it comes in the store.
But you can still get the last 5 years of BCBS at any store you want.
Yeah, of course you can.
So Dan, really quickly, is it safe to say that the bar scene in Phoenix is hot right now? Granted,
Scottsdale's popping. I mean, there were stories, people flew in from all over the country a weekend or two ago, including people like Floyd Mayweather, to be able to go out and party. Now, that's all saying before everything happened. We're on a statewide curfew right now.
Yeah.
Everything has to close at 8. So I don't think that's going on this weekend. Or I don't think it happened last weekend either, because that's when everything went down. But before that, it was out of control.
Sure. Okay.
There's a lot of, I think we might have talked about it last week, how there was like a billboard sign in Indiana saying, "Welcome Michiganders, you can drink and do stuff here." And another one like right before Ohio that says, "Are you sure you want to leave?" Or are you, or the last one in Ohio where it says, "Are you sure you want to go in there?" Wendy, what are you drinking over there?
I have, courtesy of Tavor, a Nectar Cream Snowball Juice from Urban South. It's a hazy, juicy IPA. It's pretty delicious. And in honor of the Day of the Dragon pickup tomorrow, I'm also drinking one of last year's Dragon's Milk Reserve, the rum barrel aged stout with chocolate, hazelnut, and toasted coconut. It's delicious.
I love the coconut rum. Definitely one of my favorites from this whole series of the Dragon's Milk. But I just feel like that's just too much. Like hazelnut too? No, a little bit of coconut, a little bit of rum. I'll be happy. Well, I am excited because I got messaged last week that Batch Brewing actually made an alt beer. And they canned it, and I went through a 4-pack like that, and I'm like, oh crap, I only have one more 4-pack. So I asked the owner, Steven, I'm like, hey, do you keg it? Because I have a kegerator now. And he's like, nope, we're not kegging it yet. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I might have to buy some more cans. But since they're, they have the extra time to lager and they can make an alt, so I have Autonomous Collective. And then for my second beer, I have an Autonomous Collective. And
sensing a theme here.
I was pre-gaming though. I was drinking some Barefoot Hard Seltzer.
Jesus.
What do you got against the hard seltzer, Dan? You drink it. I've seen it.
Nothing. I have a fridge full of it. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I actually I reweighed myself after, everything's starting to kind of reopen. And I'm like, gained a bunch of weight during this whole COVID thing.
Everybody did. Don't feel bad.
I wound up, I went back on diet, drank a bunch of water, lost all my water weight, and it was pretty much back to normal. So I didn't really gain anything. I'm sure if I would have continued down that path, it would have been bad. But it's pretty much seltzers and liquor throughout the week, if and when I drink, and then beer on Fridays, because I love you guys. And also because people bring me beer. Speaking of beer, obviously, I've got this nice little porch bomb from Athletic Brewing over there. Thank you. You can check out their episode last week, episode 221, where we had the owner and head brewer. But the big news, it looks like our guest is having some trouble with his internet. So we're just going to kind of trek on. And the big news that's going on with Michigan is that we are going to be opening up bars here on Monday, I believe. And also hair salons and everything like that, the touchy-feely type of businesses, so salons, masseuses, mani-pedi places, whatever, happy ending places, those kinds of places.
Oh, boy.
They're going to be opening up on the 15th, but I kind of want to bring it to Dan because Dan's kind of lived through the reopening. What should we expect here in Michigan?
Probably to see your COVID numbers spike. I mean, we had 1,500 new cases today, so it's spiking like crazy since all that's happened, if you're getting towards that kind of thing. But as far as anything else, everything's a madhouse because number one, everything's open. But number two, a lot of things are still working on those restricted, like 50% capacity. Casinos are working really weird, but everybody's trying to go there. So everything's just insane and kind of a madhouse.
Yeah, our Indian casinos are open. Even the ones that aren't necessarily in the for those of you who are not in Michigan, there are two very large territories. So they broke up our territories into like 10 or 12 different territories. There are two that the whole entire Upper Peninsula and then the Upper Lower Peninsula have been pretty much onto the next to last phase. The last phase is when we have a vaccine. So until we get to that, you won't get to that phase until that happens.
Not getting there this year.
No. Nope. But the Indian casinos, like the one in Battle Creek, which isn't in those two Firekeepers, that's reopened. And they're doing a lot, like they're just turning off slot machines so that there's social distancing. Have you been to the casinos since they reopened, or have you been kind of...
I did. I did pop into one here last weekend, and it's a madhouse. Like half the machines are off, the tables have 3 people at the most, and it's just kind of crazy with people everywhere.
I mean, I'm just curious how they're able to make money when they're limiting their.
They're jacking up. They're jacking up the table limits, like the minimums, really high. Like everything was like $25 minimum and up.
Oh, jeez.
I wonder if that's going to deter people away. I like to go to the craps table. I don't want to pay $30 a minimum. I mean, I'll pay $15. I'm not going to pay.
I think there'll be enough people that want to do it, and those are the people that they're going to win the most money from, anyways.
I can tell you, every seat was full, and there was a waiting list for every table at where I checked in at. And you know, Vegas opened yesterday.
Really?
And people are just piling in there. Midnight on Thursday night.
Yeah,
It was a madhouse at a lot of places.
I'm curious because it's such a tourist destination where they have so many people there consistently, what their healthcare in regards to like hospitals and stuff, like what they can actually handle. Because
talking about Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Good question.
Because it's not only going to be, sorry Nick to interrupt, but it's not only going to be the people who are there, but then people who are still coming and still coming and still coming. But of course, the worst part is that now they're going to fucking leave to go back to where they came from.
Yep.
And I'm a little weird. Like, we could have easily waited till July 1st and definitely removed a lot of unnecessary cases that will potentially happen.
Yeah. I mean, that was like the whole point of the phases was to try and get it to the point where we can handle it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how Phoenix and Arizona did theirs. Like,
we did jack shit. I'll flat out say that.
So you don't have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
There is, but they're not being enforced. I mean, it's just chaos.
Michigan was starting to become a high density case and death rate, and because of all these phases, we've dropped significantly. And I mean, we're not going to drop to the levels of, say, like Alaska or South Dakota or some of these smaller states, but in regards to bigger states, like I think we're 10th right now. In regards to cases per million, which I think is a huge credit to the people who have been practicing the social distancing. Now, opening up,
you were top 5 at the beginning of it.
We were top
quite
3.
A while. Oh, top 3. That's even worse.
Went New York, New Jersey, Michigan, and you're like, that didn't make sense because surrounding us, my best guess is that what we didn't have that all those other states that were surrounding us was public transpo. We don't have public transpo here in Michigan.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like you guys do in Arizona, to an extent, not an extent as like New York, New Jersey, and even necessarily Seattle.
Train-wise, no. Our bus system is pretty extensive, so there is a lot of, just not train-wise, and people were still packing that thing. You've been on it, so people were packing that regardless of what was going on.
Well, like I went to Walgreens today, and literally there are little spots for you to stand on 6 feet apart from each other, and this person in front of me just could not stand on that spot. They had to be 1.5 feet closer. And I'm just like, come on, like you're standing waiting there's no like long line where we need you to bunch up a little bit. It's just me, her, and someone. Like that's it. So
It's like traffic. They were waiting for somebody to cut them off right in front of them.
That's crazy.
So Dan says expect to spike. What about the bars, like the bars and breweries?
Bars and breweries have been packed. A lot of them aren't doing the 50% capacity or whatever where it was in place. A couple of them are, but everyone's just packing them. There's lots of pictures out there. People are lining up at midnight the day things opened up. It's been a madhouse. No one really cares. And then top off everything else going on here. It's no one's giving a crap. So, and that's why we're seeing 1,500 new cases a day, most likely.
That's crazy.
We had nothing like that. Now, our peak was expected around this time, like mid-June. I mean, because it's kind of been moving east to west outside of California and Washington. It's kind of been moving across the country, going from the East Coast to the West Coast, but it's kind of out of control now.
I'm actually looking at Johns Hopkins right now for the most recent, and I'm looking at Arizona. You just see this steady, like slow increase as you start getting into May. And then when they got the go-ahead to reopen, you just see this 3 days in a row just spikes in number of cases. Basically what you just described, Dan, and it's happening right now.
Been about 3 weeks since we reopened everything, so it's like right on pace for when you would expect to see that.
What's interesting is that, and we're kind of going the science route, but it fits right in with business. Michigan kind of peaked kind of early in the stage in this whole mess. Mm-hmm. And now we've been seeing this very, very steady decline. And I look at this like once a day. I didn't look at it today till just now. We've been seeing this steady decline. And I think today was like maybe the first day that I recall maybe in the last like week or two that we had over like 100-something cases. I think we reported 200 and something today, which is, it's unfortunate, but, when we were reporting upwards to 2,000 a day at one point, it is a plus, but, at the same time, when you got Vegas opening up, you have disregard, it sounds like in Arizona. What's to say that Michigan's going to kind of follow suit,
I got a little scared because I was looking at the coronavirus. I use worldometers.info if you guys have ever used that site before. And it said like 5,300 new cases in Michigan. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It doesn't make sense.
So they're talking about there's a lot of delayed cases as well as quote unquote probable cases in there. But even so, with that giant gap, like we're behind now. Like if you sans that gap, we're behind Florida, Texas, Pennsylvania, and then all the major public transpo. So
like Boston and Chicago,
Mass, Illinois. I got a little scared by it, but now I'm not too concerned. That number just kind of freaks you out because you're like 5,000 new cases. Holy shit!
Totally. I mean, this isn't going away anytime soon. At some point, maybe Jason's coming back.
He's trying.
He's trying. I'll make this brief. At some point, we do need to try and get back to some level of normal, not only just for the economy, but for everyone's probably state of mind. I don't know about you guys and looking at your Facebooks and your friends' feeds and all that. People are getting restless out there, and maybe this is gonna kind of help, but at the same time, people need to be smart.
I think it's going to kind of help, but at the same time, I think it may just be a little too early. I feel like if, like what Ken said, if we waited until the beginning of July, and hell, look at it that way. The beginning of July, all of a sudden, everybody can now celebrate because we can go outside and it's the 4th of July weekend. That'd be damn near perfect.
Just out of curiosity, though, what is going to change between now and July with the virus that makes it safer in July?
I'm glad you bring that up. They're starting to see it mutating towards being less harmful in Italy now. A couple of doctors independently have found that out. So if it's going that route, it should continue to go that way where we're not having as many issues.
Yeah. Jason, do you hear us?
Yes.
Hello.
Finally.
Welcome.
That was a gauntlet of trying to get my computer restarted, internet going, and need a new beer. So I'm ready to go.
Well,
some order.
let's get the important part out. Why don't you tell us what beer you're drinking?
I am drinking a it's a collaboration between Bierstadt Lager House in Denver and Finn's Manor, which is a kind of a really nice bar down the street. We're using blue and red maize from Mexico for their lager. And I was talking with Ken earlier. I was like, I hate to show them that I'm drinking it out of a can because they would want me to drink it out of a glass, but I'm drinking it anyway, so that's good.
So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do and a little bit about the company that you work for.
Yeah, so I work for, I'm a part owner of a company called Oval Options for Conflict Management. We were based in Denver. We moved out to Wheat Ridge 2 years ago. Basically, we provide conflict management services to everybody, really. And that ranges from mediation to facilitating meetings, trainings, and communication, helping people overcome disputes and disagreements. Since I'm a beer geek, I transfer that over to the beer industry and try to help breweries with issues they have. And I started out as helping with trademark issues years ago because that was all over the headlines. What I found out with talking with these breweries is there's a lot of ownership disputes. It's either the brewer and the business guy not getting along, or there's some staff issues, something like that. So we come in and we do maybe an audit, do some trainings, mediations if they're warranted, and facilitate some strategic meetings and then kind of go from there. I think recently, COVID really kind of screws everything up. There are a lot of issues surrounding that, and the politics behind that, or the so-called politics behind that, that we're kind of pivoting to doing more online things because we almost have to. A part of our push right now is helping the courts with all of their backup cases and trying to do some child services, child support mediations, and small claims mediations as well, because in Jefferson County, I think if you want a court case, you have to wait till October. And if you're a small business and you have some sort of disagreement with a client or maybe with your landlord, you want to get that ironed out. So we come in and we help them out with that. So that's the nutshell version of it.
What is a standard trademark issue that you see a lot within the industry? Do you see a lot of frivolous trademark issues, or is it, some pretty blatant, like, I'm not asking for examples, but some pretty blatant ripoffs?
Well, that's a judgment call. But I would say there are some that come our way where you kind of think, and you're like, did you research that one? And there has been kind of I guess a trick or maybe game theory of, if you come close to a name that's really popular and you think, oh, well, maybe the cease and desist letter will get us some publicity, or maybe we can pressure them in doing a collaboration. That doesn't really fly. We've seen a lot of that kind of come our way. Usually on some of those issues, we won't mediate that because that's kind of getting into the legal realm on that one, and we don't do legal practice. So we'll say, yeah, we're not going to touch that one. But yeah, I think lately we haven't seen too many trademark issues just because we've been so busy with kind of the internal workings, and we've kind of steered away from the trademark. So
I was just curious. I'm curious about that because I just would have thought not too many people are filing trademarks or really struggling with their trademark issue. Because we talked about the big case right now that's going on is Stone versus Keystone.
right.
So that's the big one in the industry itself. But the reason I asked is that I'm always curious how breweries with directional value always have, because there's so many breweries that are like North something brewery versus the something brewery, or
Yeah.
like we have a brewery here in Michigan called North Center Brewing over in Northville, Michigan, just south of Baseline Road over in Northville. Go check them out. But I'm sure Center Brewing exists. So in regards to like trademark disputes, like how do you make sure that, people aren't trying to get those types of...
Yeah, that's again, that's you're kind of getting into some of the more legal issues because
Okay.
if you're not into the if you're not distributing or doing business in that region, then the trademark can be less contested, I suppose. Once you get into, if you're in the same market, if it's close enough, that's really where the vagueness is on, is there consumer confusion? Well, how do you prove that? So that's where, you can do a lengthy court process. And some of them do. The Keystone and Stone, they're not going to mediate. They're just going to do it through the courts. And okay, that's fine. Some of the smaller ones may not have the bandwidth and the financial backing to do it, even if it's two smaller ones. And we could come in, and we've done it before, and just say, okay, why do you want this name? What's it represent? And then why do you want this name? And then is there something we can work out that'll help you both, or maybe even coexist with it? A lot of options there.
Now, as we start to reopen and people are starting, like you're in Denver right now, and I think it was 2 weeks ago that Denver started, or at least Colorado started, where breweries are reopening with limited capacity. What are you seeing with issues with staff coming back, and with breweries trying to get their staff to come back?
I haven't really seen too many issues with that. Denver is such a friendly town and small business friendly town, well, in the surrounding Denver metro, that I haven't seen too many issues with that. Now, granted, I haven't been out as well with COVID, and I have a 2-year-old, so good luck getting out with that thing attached to you. But I haven't seen. I know some breweries have. I think the opening was last week. It kind of depends on what day it is today. And I know some have did not open at the opening day. They're going to wait a week or two just to make sure and just to kind of keep low. And from what I've seen, all the employees have helped, tried to help the breweries and with advertising and with just pivoting and making all those curbside pickups and the deliveries happen. So I haven't heard of too many unusual employee disputes or anything like that recently.
Well, that's good. Rob, you got a question?
Not at the moment. I was developing one in my head. I guess I was kind of thinking, hey, I take time, all right? I think I was thinking about those employees and them coming back, and obviously you guys kind of deal with a lot of the stuff from the workplace environment of harassment and work conditions, I guess, and things like that. But the one thing I kind of wonder about is when these employees start to come back, there being any type of situations where should they actually contract COVID, if they come back at the breweries and try to hold them responsible for it, if there's any type of, I guess, mediation standpoint, or maybe that's more just a litigation thing that goes beyond. I don't know.
Yeah, I see. Let me see if I can reframe that question. It's the employee comes back to work, contracts the COVID, and then tries to sue the brewery.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You probably have to get into employment law on that. There might be a waiver form. I don't know. I don't know if even a waiver would even cover that. But I mean, we could definitely go in and
well, I mean, your whole job is to stop lawyers from getting into the world.
Not to stop lawyers from getting in, but from really having them get their teeth into it. And usually, when a lawyer gets involved, they tell you not to talk to the other side, mm-hmm. For a reason. I mean, they're advocates for their parties. And our mission is to, let's get the parties together and let's see if we can create and design and develop a different outcome where you don't have to spend 8 months or 18 months in the court process and pay the court fees and lawyer fees and all that for 18 months. Some issues, like I said, if some issues don't fit our wheelhouse, then yeah, I mean, totally lawyer up and go for it and see what happens. I mean, we don't just really discourage that in some cases.
How often do you see issues between an owner and a brewer?
The easier question is, how often do we not see that? And some of them are just basic disagreements, and that happens. And sometimes they fester for a while, and sometimes they don't. And we kind of in our profession, we say conflict is good because, like, if you're driving in your car, the tire on the road is conflict. If you manage it well, you get to go where you want to go. If you don't manage it well, you get the tree or you go in a ditch or get another car. So what we try to say is, okay, you have a conflict. Let's see what the conflict is and get to the root of it and get out of our positions and our posturing and see how we can overcome it. So conflict is not necessarily bad. It's just how it's handled. So everybody has disputes and everybody has their problems that they have to face, and sometimes they just escalate a little bit longer.
Now, is that part of I guess what I was reading as the ADR method?
Yeah.
Okay.
ADR is alternative dispute resolution, and yeah, we do that. Hold on, my 2-year-old is right here, so okay.
I'm obviously looking at your site. What do you think is the biggest challenge with people opening up breweries right now in regards to, like, what's bringing up the most conflicts? Hello.
Hey, everybody.
For those of you who are listening to the podcast, we have our youngest guest ever at 2 years old.
2 years and a couple months. Yeah, and she does not partake in the drinking. So
not yet.
I think I think the biggest conflict is with maybe contractors or subcontractors or all the red tape. And you want to plan your brewery to open by November, you make that the next August.
So you're doing conflict resolution even pre-opening, because I worked in the restaurant industry in regards to point of sales for 5.5 years. Dan, you say, "Oh Lord," I can't tell you how many times I showed up to a restaurant that they were ready for install and the go live was that day, and I'm still seeing like beams and.
That's why I was saying, "Oh Lord," because I knew exactly what you were getting at.
Like I've seen some bad contract time where you're saying, "Oh, we're gonna open tomorrow," and when I show up, I'm like, "You're not opening for 2 months."
Yeah, well, even after everything is good, there's a brewery. A friend of mine owns a brewery in Denver, and years ago they opened, and right before they opened, they had, I can't remember which inspector came, and the sinks were the bathroom sinks were 2 inches taller, I think too tall. And he's like, "Well, I can't open without a bathroom or without a sink, because that violates health." So that set them back, I think, a week. And of course, they had to call a contractor, and they're busy, so they had to expedite it and then pay that extra thing. And it's just one of those things where you think you got it all planned out, and if something happens, you really have to you kind of have to plan for the not planned. Have plan A through H, and then throw those away, and then start over.
2 weeks ago, we had Dan Kiplinger on. That was episode 220 with the Old Peninsula Brewery. That's it. Former brewer there. And we were kind of talking about how, and I kind of think this would be a post-employee dispute, but how, and it might go into legalese, so you could probably give me your best answer. But those who are making their own beer, bringing their own recipes and stuff, if you're hiring a brewer off the street, how do they manage, now you can't go make that beer somewhere else? Because we're seeing a lot of people who have cultivated their own beer recipes from either other breweries or home brewing, or working at Schoolcraft College, which is a local university that has a beer program. How do you manage recipe ownership?
That's a good question. I don't think you really can. Hold on one second.
He's talking to his daughter right now. So
The beauties of live
yeah.
radio.
yep.
I don't know if you can on ownership. The copyright is a trademark for recipes. I don't. We had this conversation a couple of years ago with Candace Moon, who's a lawyer out in San Diego, and she's like, you can try to claim ownership over it, but if it's just putting stuff together, I mean, if you cultivated a new hop or something, and there's a patent on it, but as far as the ownership goes, I don't think you can legally. I could be wrong. Legally claim it. Now when we could come in and we can help them out and kind of maybe design a plan for it and see what we can do with ownership now, with ownership in 2 years, and with ownership in 10 years.
Well, I guess my question to you is that what would stop me as say I'm a brewer and I just got hired at Sierra Nevada. I worked for Sierra Nevada for 5 years. I know how torpedo gets made. Big name brewery. Now I go to I go to random brewery here and over in Colorado, and I call it Underground Missile, and
It's a great name.
it's literally just torpedo.
Underwater missile.
Hey, Mark.
What is to protect Sierra Nevada from that?
So that would be a process, and that would be protected, I believe. I think up in left hand they had their nitro stout, and that process is guarded. So you can't reveal the process if that's a new technique. I think you could protect that. Again, you have to ask one of the lawyers. But as far as the ingredients goes, I don't think you can protect that. The process, I do believe you can have some sort of patent.
Because I know the big thing in regards to like ingredients and recipes and stuff, like Coca-Cola, you don't get like the ingredients to make Coca-Cola. Like it's a syrup that gets shipped out everywhere. And
what's that recipe?
Well, so I got first of all, I watched the Coca-Cola documentary, so I know the recipes in some lockbox in Georgia. But I know like the Coca-Cola plants themselves, like there's a plant that makes the syrup, which is like the whole thing is guarded, and then the syrup goes to plants that make the Coca-Cola. So there's this huge process to make sure that whole secret is guarded, so that you don't. That's why you don't have
KFC does the same thing or something similar.
Well, I think we talked about the KFC last week, the 11 herbs and spices.
Yeah,
it's 6 guys named Herb and the 5 Spice Girls.
There are 11 of them. Yeah, I think it's more the process than the ingredients itself. Yeah.
How coming into whatever the next normal is, I hate that phrase now because I've said it so many times. But going into the next normal, like how are you expecting are you expecting an uptick in work in regards to disagreements and issues, or like how are you preparing yourself as well as I'm assuming you have other coworkers, it's not just you who is mediating. How are you preparing them for these conflicts that are going to occur between staff and employees, or staff and owners? Because I think the big thing that a lot of people, and to call a spade, a lot of people don't want to get off unemployment because they're making a lot on unemployment right now. But in the same sense, the second that your job is reoffered to you and you turn it down, if your restaurant took PPP, which is, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's whatever the loan is.
Protection.
Yeah, the SBA loan. If your company took PPP, you rehire your employees, because they have a rule that they have to rehire most of their employees, and you turn it down, they have to go and be like, hey, this person turned it down, which in turn they lose their unemployment.
Right.
Is that true in Michigan? Because that's not true here.
Yes, it is.
That's
true in Michigan.
We have a thing in place here, specifically, at least in Arizona, that if you feel unsafe going back after being recalled, you don't have to go, and it doesn't affect your unemployment.
See, I think that's where the gray area is, and I think there would be an issue in regards to Michigan, because I would assume in Michigan you could do that. And say, but if you're a brewer and you're trying to get this person back and they're not coming back because they're making more on unemployment, now that person, once the $600 a week bonus comes out, or it ends, they're going to want their job back. Like, how do you mediate that?
Well, I think that's up to the individual breweries, because if you try to hire someone back and they don't want to come back, there's a lot of unemployment out there. You could probably find somebody else. And if it's up to you, if you're responsible for that PPP and the whatever the 1% interest is on it, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you have this is why you need a good relationship with your employees so they can come back and actually want to work with you. But if they don't, you can hire someone else. I mean, that's to stop you from doing that.
I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say that makes a lot of sense because obviously the industry itself, the restaurant industry, not just breweries are probably, I would be curious if you knew the answer, but I would assume breweries turnover is a lot lower in comparison to bars and restaurants. Just because I've seen the same bartenders at breweries more often than I've seen the same, bartenders at bars. So
how often do you go to breweries?
I mean, very often, I would say.
Yeah. Turnover. I would say you're right on that. Turnover is higher in restaurants than in breweries, and I think it's because of that connection with the brewery owners and that brewery itself that has more than just a job to a lot of people.
Do you brew beer at all, or are you a home brewer?
I do some home brewing. I haven't in about 2 years and 3 months for some reason.
Oh, but I think we saw her on the screen. That's for sure.
Yes. But I have home brewed for a while, and I got a good setup in the wood shop now. I just haven't done
the one that didn't have any internet.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
It wasn't working. So to answer to address your previous question is what we're preparing for. So how kind of our business model is, there's a couple owners, 3 owners and a admin staff, and then we contract out mediations to practitioners who are experienced in other areas. Some are lawyers, some are environmentalists, some are social workers. So they're trained in mediation as well as other aspects. What I see coming, and I could be totally wrong, but what I see coming fairly soon might be lease agreements. When everything starts opening back up, there's no excuse not to pay rent anymore. The landlords have been fairly accommodating to late payments and all that. What happens when everything is back up? You should be getting your rents, but they don't quite have it yet because they're only at 60% or whatever it is. So we have our landlord tenant lawyer mediators on those, and we're kind of preparing them for that. And I think that's probably going to be the first one. Second one might be training a new staff. As you said, some might not come back to work. So you may have to hire one person, or hire one new person, or hire 20 new people. So that's something else we're trying to prepare for. But I think what we're kind of looking at is the lease agreements, not necessarily the agreements themselves, but kind of the terms within them.
Again, not using examples or anything like that, but are you seeing professionally a lot of landowners being very lenient right now?
Yeah, a lot, not all. Especially ones whose buildings are affected directly, which is almost all of them, I suppose. But some of the senior care facilities, some of the breweries, restaurants, apartment buildings, they've been fairly lenient and accepting. But they can only go as far as they can before they really have to start making their payments.
All right. Why don't you plug where you work, how people can get in touch with you if they need you, all that jazz.
Oh, my contact?
Yeah.
So ovaloptions.com is the website. We're kind of going through different iterations of it because we're switching a lot to online mediations, which hopefully my internet works more so than it has. My email is jason@ovaloptions.com or .org. We're both there. And then our phone number is 720-220-8683. And basically, we do free consultations. So if you have a dispute, maybe a couple tips on some things, how to handle someone who's being maybe aggressive or not listening or whatever.
You can't say it, but I can say it, a pain in the ass.
Pain in something, yeah. And yeah, so yeah, and to help you out with that. And like I said, small claims, civil, county court, stuff like that. Usually we can, internet really expands our market to beyond Colorado, and we would like to say we do mediations to facilitate. We can do mediations anywhere, except we have to look at whatever state you're in if they have a different licensure for mediations. Some are different, some except Colorado's. Facilitations we can do anytime, and tips and just talking we can do those anytime as well. So yeah, ovaloptions.com. Oh, and you can also do Brewery Mediation Network. That's kind of my little side project under that umbrella.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate you getting in here. I'm glad you were able to, especially with the internet issues. Before we let you go and we take our first break, I have a question.
Sure.
I just got a homebrew kit. I am ready to brew my first beer. What is the one thing you would tell someone who has never brewed a beer before? What is your one, like, make sure you do this or don't do this?
Make sure you clean everything. Everything. Before, after, during, yeah. Because one little microbe of a bacteria can really change your beer.
Probably buy a whole bunch of ice too, because you really need to cool that stuff down quick.
Yeah, or else it's sitting for a long time.
Yeah.
Get a coil chiller.
A coil is magic.
So I purchased the Northern Brewer Brew, Share, Enjoy home brewing starter kit.
Good pickup.
Oh, you got the same one that Dina got me for Christmas then.
Yep. So it comes with the Block Party Amber as the beer to make. So as much as I'd probably want to make a alt beer to start off with, I will slowly go with the Amber Ale. But I did pick up the John Palmer book, How to Brew, Everything You Need to Know. And the first probably 20 pages are make sure you clean and sanitize. So I think you are in good company in regards to that decision. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me
in the chat, we'll be back in about 10 minutes with the news. We got a big update, so we'll be right back with the Better on Draft podcast.
I'm headed for the city, trouble in my mind. I'm way too young and pretty for things to be unkind. Time is all we have now, so let's make something while we can. I'm headed for the city, make me start again. Conversation now and then, gotta go, gotta get it. Don't make things go south, baby. Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, 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 oh. I'm headed for the city, see what I can unwind. Always gotta start it to dictate, make it in this life. Time is all we have now, so let's make something while we can. I'm headed for the city to make me start again. Conversation now and then, gotta go, gotta get it. Don't make things go south, baby.
And we are back. Better on Draft Podcast 222. We are about to go over the news. Obviously, if you can see on the screen, you can see one of the billboards we were chatting about earlier.
That tells you a lot if you're willing to turn back to go to South Bend over like anything in Michigan, because that's kind of a dump. So that's what I'm just picturing right on the border. Like that's the one city I can think of.
South Bend.
Yeah.
There's Angola's over there.
I mean, Gary's kind of on the border too. I guess you could head there. It's probably more fun.
Gary's over down 94, not 69. I mean, I've driven past Gary all the time trying to get into and out of Chicago, and you see the signs for Gary, and you're like, I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah, don't ever drive into that town.
I've never driven there on purpose. That is for sure. I got detoured through there when 94 was closed at one point, but I've never driven through there on purpose.
That's where I learned about hog maws and what those are. They were selling them on the street.
What the hell is that?
Rob!
I feel like you might have just killed Rob here.
Oh, what?
Baby, let me make you some hog maws and some chitlins.
They were cooking them on the sidewalk.
Why don't
like in
you
a giant
explain? Because Nick does not know what hog maws are.
Wait, hold on, wait. Let me read it first, because I'm looking at it right now, and it does not look good at all.
Why don't you tell us what you're talking about? What are you looking at?
Well, it is the stomach of a pig. More specifically, the exterior muscular wall of the pig.
Yes, and you serve that with the intestines of a frickin' whatchamacallit, a pig being your chitlins. Hog maws is of chitlins.
You're loving this.
Oh man.
I mean, I can't say much. I'm a huge fan of Chinina. So
yeah, that's kind of up there too.
That's some duck blood soup. That's amazing. Well, let's go over. We are in round number 2. We're about to start the news. What are you drinking there, Wendy? She wasn't ready. I knew it. She still says she's not ready, but
I'm not ready at all, man. I am drinking Drafting's Table Easier Storm Milkshake IPA, and I wasn't ready because I was Drafting Table. Because I was trying to purchase the city-built version of Easier Storm so I can pick it up while I'm there tomorrow, but I was too late. I might be able to get it tomorrow. Well, I hope.
Go check out one of the 500 West Michigan craft beer enthusiast pages. Somebody will sell it, trade it for you.
I'm hoping that I missed the cutoff for delivery.
What are you drinking over there? Nice glass, by the way.
No, thanks. Yeah, I'm still drinking Alpha King from Three Floyds. I got something good for the third segment. So.
Oh boy, he's milking it before Jackbox. Rob?
Yeah, I am.
So I have switched over. I picked these up earlier today and stopped off at Ascension and picked up Sensual on the Sectional, which is their session pastry stout, clocking in at a non-pastry stout percentage of 5%.
It's pretty tasty though.
It is way too sweet.
Say all the calories and you're still sober when you're done.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Honestly, for myself, I don't think I would get this again just because it is just, I mean, some people say that Parent No Rules is sweet. This is like, playing with my diabetes right now. Just with
your diabetes
this shit is.
Hi, I'm Wilford Brimley.
Dan, what do you got over there? What's on your plate?
Still working on that amazing Rev Stout, the coffee stout from Parrish. I wish I could send you guys some because it is that good. Rob can attest to it.
Oh,
at least I think you thought it was good. So
yes, it is. It is really good, and I was
amazing.
It was funny because I remember I had ordered 2 bottles of it, and then I was mad that I only got 2 bottles, and then Tavor sent one of the ad boxes, and it had 2 more in it. I remember
Oh,
actually
dang.
I brought it onto the show because I remember we did one of the Tavor Tuesdays with it, and I remember bringing it on the show. And I think we could probably blame Ed because I think he took the other bottle.
What a bastard! Fire
I
him.
think I just got 2 bottles of that in the box that just arrived this week.
I
I
got
was
You
gonna
to
say,
crack
it-
one
it
because
did-
they're amazing.
It did show up on the site again another time, so maybe.
I gotta meet up with him because there is a beer in
I
that
do.
athletic beer brewing that I'm gonna have him write a review. But before we go into the news, there's a few things that I want to bring up. 2 things. One, so when we were doing our list of breweries for the numbers, we got a handful of responses back saying that those numbers were wrong. And I'm
Oh.
like,
Oh,
well, why are they wrong? And I showed them my work, and they said, well, and they explained X, Y, and Z, and you should go off these numbers. So before we go there and go over the corrected top 10, I wanted to say that I want to give a shout out to City Built Brewing because Built Brewing has one of the best DBAs in the world. Because they are Beer Me Bro LLC,
Oh boy, I saw you mention
oh,
that too.
man.
doing business as City Belt. I
Please
fucking
represent.
died when I saw that. Also, a really fun one is, and we actually interviewed him while he was on the show. While he just opened up his brewery, and that's Adam at Ascension. It's actually called Aperture. And if you guys remember that episode, he is a big photographer. He was actually still doing photography sets while the brewery first opened. Now they're, doing gangbusters over there, so I don't know if he has time to do that.
Right.
But we are on the embarking of a massive data collection of information in regards to craft beer within the state of Michigan. This is going to be a long project, to say the least, but we have a lot of people who are helping us, including everyone in here who will be helping me with data entry as I'm looking at all of you.
What?
Thank you. Thank you for volunteering, Dan. So the actual top 10 in regards to breweries from the state of Michigan, which I have the numbers here for you right now, goes Founders, Bell's, New Holland, Shorts, Atwater, Old Nation, Perrin, Saugatuck, Griffin Claw, and Keweenaw. So all those breweries are actually over 10,000 barrels. Everybody else that's out of the top 10 is under 10,000 barrels. It's a very weird number to have, but it's what it is. Missing the top 10 involves Oddside, Black Rocks, Arcadia, Ellison, and the entire Nub collection, Northern United Brewing. What you guys are going to be seeing from Better on Draft upcoming is more data, more information, and to tell you the story about Michigan craft beer throughout the history. So you're going to be able to find out, when did that brewery open? When did that brewery close? Where was that brewery located? Tell us a little bit more. As we continue to collect the data and information, we'll start launching it onto our website, betterondraft.com. The numbers itself, so that page that we made for the numbers, I believe on Monday is when we launched it. That will be updated here on Monday with the correct numbers for 2019, but the rest of the information, like 2018 and beyond in regards to numbers, is going to be slowly released. We'll announce it when it comes out. But it is a lot of information, and the goal is to kind of give you a little bit more of a history of craft beer within Michigan, so not just what it is. And we will be able to give you a lot of details, including the fact that 2017 was the actual largest brewery opening year of Michigan history, if you guys ever wondered about that. So I actually had told the guys in we have a little chat that we talk, and I told them that we had 52 openings, but actually right now I added an extra one. We're at 53, so we had at least 53 brewery openings in 2017.
Wow.
So literally one a week. We actually also had closing eight closed right now at that time. So it is a interesting year. As we go to 2019, which I have the updated numbers, we had 13 breweries close in 2019. RIP some of our favorites, which include Cellarman's, Axel, and Black Lotus.
Those all 2017.
Those are all 2019 closings.
Oh, 2019. My apologies.
Yeah.
Makes more sense.
2017 had openings like Axel. Brewery 424 winners of our 2019 March Draftness. We still have our 2020 March Draftness party that we have to throw. How and when we're going to throw it, no idea. But lots of guests who have been on our show, including Urban Rest. As I slowly saw, Loggers has been on the show. We've had... I got a bug on my screen, actually. Fillmore 13, Farmington Underground Canning and Kegging, Eastern Market Brewing, Brewery 424, obviously. We've had the current head brewer at Blake's, which was Matt Wiles when he was at Atwater, who's been on the show. Aberrant's been on the show. And my friends over at Beer Church Brewing opened up in 2017. So,
hallelujah.
Lots of good openings at that time. Again, this data is going to be released at betterondraft.com. So we appreciate you all checking that out. We're hoping to be the website for you to go to when you want to learn about something about craft beer. With that in mind, I'm going to do my best impression. You ready? Here is Robert with the beer news.
Wow.
We need the jingle.
I mean, I could technically launch the jingle, but
I mean, can we play like the hard copy theme song or something?
Give me.
Wait, who was that an impression of?
I have no idea. It was just me doing a voice. By the way, for those of you who care, I'm drinking CEO Stout. I need to find that guy who made all those voiceovers for us and like take him out to dinner or some shit. He's done fucking amazing stuff for us.
All right. I figure it's going to be kind of a mixture of news and sort of just like stuff going on. Obviously,
news and commentary.
News and commentary, exactly. let me be your Bill Bonds, and since I have alcohol, why the hell not?
Oh my gosh.
Damn. Yeah, that was local shit right there. Okay. So. I know. I liked Bill Bonds. He was the shit. There was obviously a lot of the people that are around here, they saw a lot of posting and voting that was going on with Perrin in terms of them making their next beer, to which, they decided on all of the ingredients, the fact that it was going to be a Russian Imperial Stout with chocolate, vanilla, and marshmallow, and they called it self-samorantine. I believe that was like the name of it. I might have that a little wrong, but they decided to do an interactive brew the other day. They basically put out the recipe for everybody to if anybody wanted to make it, they could make it. Obviously, for anybody who does all grain as opposed to extract, like myself, as really a three-time home brewer. I don't know how to do all grain, so there is no way in hell that I'm going to do it. I've heard that all grain is not as hard, but on the other end, I don't have the equipment to even do that. But they put out the recipe. They did an interactive brew, and I think it's up on YouTube and on Perrin's website where you can watch it. But the thing that I am not going to touch with this recipe is marshmallow fluff. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever messed with marshmallow fluff with anything that you may have ever made in your kitchen. But marshmallow fluff is easily one of the most difficult ingredients I think I've ever touched.
So, Rob, use extract. That's the way to do it. Find an extract for marshmallow fluff. You can add it right to, even with an extract, you'll probably add it like post-boil and you'll be good.
Well,
problem solved?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Yeah.
I made a marshmallow stout before. That's the only way I could figure out to do it without throwing marshmallows in and like making a huge mess of everything. So it's a good way to go.
Yeah, I remember buying a jar of that stuff and just running a butter knife into that, and it was just like, I'm never using this shit again. then I just tried to use a spoon to get it off with a knife, and then I had to use a fork to get it off the spoon. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yep.
I had a coworker that used to keep a jar of that in her desk.
Why?
It was her snack. She loved it.
You just sit there all
Would
day.
literally pull a spoonful of marshmallow fluff out.
Like, I understand peanut butter. Like, you take a little spoon of peanut butter and that's a snack, but marshmallow fluff?
Yeah,
loved it.
nobody
That's
who
just
does
pure
that.
sugar.
Every time I see it, I still think of her to this day.
There's not
and
even
it was years
nutritional
ago.
value to that. Like, at least peanut butter is high in protein and pretty filling, but
Give me that sugar.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm really hoping that they put that in bottles and distro that, because I mean, I'm interested to try it. I'm just not interested in making it because as some people are I see a post from Andrew Parr to tell me that to get a brew bag. I'm just going to get myself hopefully a 6-pack because I'm not doing that. And
Screw
plus,
the brew bag.
and plus, right now in my house, we do not have air conditioning. It is 81 degrees in this house right now.
Rob, what are you doing?
The
What's
AC.
going on?
Old
Oh,
house in
You
Detroit.
know someone that can help you with that, right?
Oh, I got a guy. He's coming on Monday.
Oh, they all got a guy.
Yeah,
Rob, I think she's talking about her.
I know. I got a gal too. But
you could probably pay her in beer.
yeah, that's a lot of beer to have to replace a 5-ton unit.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Dina would appreciate some of those beers out of your cellar gone.
Hey, that's my room.
Yeah, she doesn't go in there anyways. It doesn't matter.
No one does because I have the key.
Oh, you lock it? Oh Lord.
Ow!
So I'm giving you guys.
Oh gee.
Wait a minute. What is it? Some key from Resident Evil? What kind of key is that? Is that from the mansion? How old is that thing, Rob? 138?
A heads up.
This house was built in 1936. Every door in this house has one of those.
So I'm giving you guys a heads up. So after the Griffin Claw Flying Buffalo episode for this year, whenever we do it, sometime in December, I am going to throw a private Better on Draft party where we will have a 3-year vertical of all Flying Buffalo.
Holy!
Oh, I guess I got to buy a plane ticket, huh?
So we will have 2018, 2019, and 2020, all the variants, and a private party for us and a few Better on Draft fans. So we'll invite some people over.
Or
And
you
Wait
gonna
a
do a
minute.
contest?
Wait. We have fans?
we are. I mean, we have
These
like
people from India?
7 people.
Top fans listed here on the chat.
Hey, and excluding us, there's like 13 people watching live. Yeah.
Hold on, because I'm watching too, so that's not quite as many.
Wait, does that mean you're not a fan?
So in the chat, before we continue with the news, Wes is drinking an Odd Side Pink Lemonade Seltzer because he's a homer.
Of course.
Rob got a brew bag. I don't know what that means.
Oh, that's what I was mentioned earlier about
Get a
getting
brew,
brew
yeah.
bag. Yeah.
Gotcha. Get a brew bag. There you go. And Tito is saying a bourbon barrel aged Zero Clout by
I
Griffin
really
Claw.
need to go pick that up. That is a barrel-aged barley wine, and I am
Ooh.
always a fan of barley wine, and I am a big fan of barrel-aged barley wine. So I'm very interested in how Griffin Claw makes that sucker, because I've had the Australian barley wine, which they call OK Boomerang, which is really good.
What else do
So,
we got in the news, Rob?
Got a couple other things, obviously, with everything that has been going on with this week, and this has been a relatively emotional week, to say the least, with everything that is going on. We've seen, one of the few collabs that have, or some of the few collabs that have come out in the past. Obviously, there's been the one that has gone on for COVID being all together, that started out with Other Half. But obviously, with the wake of the unrest that has been happening over the country over, as what I personally consider the murder of George Floyd, that Weathered Souls Brewery out of San Antonio, Texas, has released a recipe to the masses for a beer that is called Black is Beautiful, which is going to be an imperial stout. Breweries interested in making this are asked to obviously use the label design that Weathered Souls has provided, and to donate proceeds to organizations in their communities that support police brutality reform and legal defense funds. I've been kind of trying to go through some of the articles here to find out how many breweries are doing this so far. I think what I've seen is it says there's like one article that says there's over 150 breweries that are planning to make the beer. I haven't run into a list of, at least for myself, Ken, Nick, and Wendy, for local breweries that are here in Michigan. I haven't seen a list of any Michigan breweries that are planning to do it. However, I am getting word that a certain brewery on Charlotte Street is planning on doing this beer, which we know my opinions on this. This is nothing more than a bingo square. I am not going to get into it.
I'm 100% sure Batch Brewing is in on it. I believe I saw former guest Dave Sakat talk about it in a random group that I'm in that he is in. I don't know anybody else off the top of my head, but to say it makes sense in regards to one, who one of their brewers is, but two, in regards to what Batch Brewing stands for as an entire brewery itself. It's not a very surprising thing to see.
Shout out to Kuma. So yeah, I mean that for Batch, I'm not surprised with that. Obviously, as I think, another bingo square that apparently I'm being called out on, because I seem to be this de facto sponsor of Eastern Market / Ferndale Brewing, our Ferndale project. I would like to see them do it. I mean, obviously, I'd like to see a lot of the breweries around here to do this, just because we see that there is a problem. We know that there is a problem. I know for some of you guys who are friends with me on Facebook may or may not seen that I haven't been the happiest of people this week. And some of the posts that I have put up there, which, I've been civil. I've just been angry. And, I want to see more support. And I mean, hell, I'd love to see every brewery in Michigan do this. I know every brewery's not going to, but that's not to say that they're not supporting. It could be that they don't have the money to get the supplies to do the damn beer. I mean, I don't know where their financial situation is, but for the breweries that are out there that can, I really would love to see. I would love to see this beer just be everywhere. So that's.
Well, I got nothing to add on
say about that.
That was good. There's nothing to say.
No.
You can only say so many words.
So many words.
Fuck shit.
or I guess there's you can just say as many.
That was my New Balance dad shoe wearing joke of the episode. Rob, give us one more news thing and then we will call it an episode.
All right, one more news thing.
Make it good. Make it juicy.
Make it juicy. That's too close to moist.
Oh. Not quite.
Listen, Lizzo did not make a top.
Laughs.
All right.
Lizzo did not make a top recording song or top selling song called Moist. It was called Juicy.
So I feel like every year
it's called Juice.
Yeah, I feel like every year we tend to see these things where somebody is offering money to do something that just seems kind of mundane, whether it's, traveling the world and drinking some beer, or, sitting in their house and drinking some beer. But it looks like
we all learned that nobody could sit in their fucking house and make $1 million with no internet and be there for a year.
We can't do that in real life right fucking now. But there is a Virginia brewery, Devil's Backbone Brewing, that is looking for somebody to basically take on what sounds like the entire Appalachian Trail and drink beer.
Good luck. Good luck.
So they're looking for a candidate that will hike the entire trail in 2021 and quote get some big old beer parties all along the way. So it's going to come with some benefits. It includes some outdoor gear, travel to the trailhead, beer, and then essentially what they said is going to be a $20,000 stipend. The winner, basically, it looks like what they're doing is that they're looking for the winner who's going to be able to do this will need to post on social media documenting their hike and share that with the company. And for those who have never been to the Appalachian Trail, this sucker is 2,200 miles that runs from Georgia to Maine.
Do you have a whole year to do it?
Who are the idiots that want this money, thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna get $20,000 to go hike this thing"?
It's not about the money.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Dan, it's going to
about
be.
the fact that I get to hike for a year and drink beer while I'm doing it.
It's some early 20s kid who just graduated college, doesn't want to go into the real world quite yet, and is going to hike. You're going to get paid $9 a mile, not including the as Rob mentions in here. There is a stretch in the southeastern part of Pennsylvania that takes several months to complete, which is only 229 miles.
Your ass is gonna die of dysentery. This is bullshit.
You're gonna freeze because you're gonna be still doing it. It's winter time and you're in the mountains. So good
I'd have
luck.
to take Grandma with me, so I think that would slow me down a bit. I might need 2 years.
Well, hold on. It says Georgia to Maine, so you can start in Georgia pretty early.
And then you end up in Maine in winter time.
No. You start in Georgia in
January.
Oh yeah, January, February, March.
I mean, it'd be a little warm enough.
That's like 3 months off the year. If you start in March.
If you start in January, if you're talking about, I guess, part of me was just like, I feel like I'm going to have to look this up on Google Maps to basically see how long it would take on foot to go go 2,200 miles. Because, I mean, I don't know.
I'm sure there's definitely a website because you have to go by some amateur hiker. Because you ain't getting some professional mountain climber or some bullshit person that's going to take this job.
But I mean, is an amateur actually going to live through the whole damn thing? Because an amateur.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, so I just found the fastest times to complete the trail.
Okay.
So going northbound, it took them, the fastest time ever recorded took 45 days, 12 hours, and 15 minutes.
So going for speed.
This is going for speed. Professional. Southbound, it took them 54 days.
Okay, so this is going northbound, so that's the start.
Yep, and those were self-supported, so they're probably they're doing, everything on their own. And then for those that are getting supported, so they're getting food from crews and shelter, the fastest going northbound is 41 days, 7 hours, 39 minutes, and then going southbound is almost 46 days. So that's where they're getting help, food, and
I shared a link in the chat here for the Zoom.
Yep, it's gonna be.
How much
it's on the video right now, guys. If you are not watching us, watching us live, Facebook.com/Better on Draft. You can
I
find
share
us.
this
Hold
guy's
on, Nick.
picture?
Hold on. I'm sharing it on my screen right now, Nick.
Okay. All right.
You guys can watch us on Facebook.com/Better on Draft, or you can use the Hot Mic app. Go to your iOS or Google Play. Use the code BOD once you download it, and you'll be able to watch us live. So those of you who are maybe taking a social media break, but you still want to join us live, you could join us on Hot Mic so that you don't have to worry about, I'm going to miss my Better on Draft time. No, you're not. You're not. You're going to be able. I lost the.
You won't miss it.
You won't miss it. There we go. There's the link. So as we're looking, so you guys won't be able to see it. Don't worry about it. So this guy did it 153 days. I don't know if he was. I mean, he didn't look like the most fit person in the world. He looked like a definite dad bod kind of guy.
Well, usually the hikers will pack on some pounds when they're going on a long hike like
yeah.
that.
Take a look at this link real quick and let me know. That's
Yeah.
what happened.
He looked so happy in the beginning.
Maybe that's what I need to do to lose weight. Walk the apple. A devil's backbone. Let's go, baby.
And people who want to drink beer are going to do this? I don't think so.
They're not going to die of dysentery. They're going to just die. Falling off a cliff.
Well, I asked Rob.
I'm drinking beer. Ah!
I asked Rob to end us on a happy note, and he didn't. So
It's someone falling off a cliff.
yeah, that's gonna do it. I'm gonna give a shout out to our friends from formerly Cellarman's. I got a nice little glass right here of. I'm not
Nice.
drinking Cellarman's. I'm drinking CEO Stout. But
I was going to ask where you got that Cellarman's at, but okay.
I got it from the brewery when I bought beer and stuff from them, and I bought a glass.
I meant beer. What are you drinking?
No, I tell you what. So I got invited to cover the Great Lakes or Western Michigan Wine and Spirits Festival over in Grand Rapids, and they added a beer festival, which was probably, and I appreciate the invite 100%, was a piece of shit beer festival. They had a lot of people in, which was nice, but the sample size in reference to, so I could get either for the same price, a sample of beer or an ounce of liquor. So like 3 ounces of beer or an ounce of liquor.
Oh, you're doing the ounce of liquor for sure.
Well, at that point, I'm like, now I'm going to start trying all these liquors that I've never had before, from New Holland, from Coppercraft, from all these distilleries within the state. So I got all excited, but I'm like, you can't. That's the craft brewery, craft beer itself. It's yeah. Anyways, Better on Draft 222 in the books, guys. Thank you so much. We are gonna stay on. We're gonna reset the video because we can't do it on Hot Mic. We're gonna do it on Facebook, and we're gonna play some Jackbox. So we'll be back at about 8:40 or so. So that's gonna do it for us. The podcast part. No matter what you think of your beer, we think it's.
Oh my God.
Damn it, I was gonna say it. All right, hold on. We'll try it one more time. Now that I know it's a call and answer. It's a call. No. It's call and answer. Call and answer.
Okay.
And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's.
Hold my blunt.
Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Peace.